that is our defense.
Yeah. I'm going to start off here. Well, we usually start off with tight ends, or not tight, but secondary and linebackers. I want to start off with the defensive line this time. What did you see today, or what did you not see from this defensive line that you really – was there anything missing that you really wanted to see that didn't happen?
So it was kind of – it's a tough game to judge because that Sims kid, like the Georgia Tech quarterback, not very good, right? I do think we were – I think we got an okay amount of pressure. We had some really nice plays by like Leonard Taylor blowing stuff up in the backfield.
Young guy.
Andre Johnson had a really nice strip sack that unfortunately we didn't recover it, but it was still a really nice play. So I actually thought the defensive line did pretty good. I think the problem came from that there was no second level support from the linebackers. So he just kept dumping the ball off to Gibbs, who apparently is LaDainian Tomlinson. And, how many receiving yards did Gibbs have? Like, it wouldn't surprise me if he had over 100.
Oh, it wouldn't shock me at all. I mean, he's the guy that I referred to as their little ball of energy or their little ball of fire.
Yeah.
If they get him going on offense, man, it's kind of an issue. We saw what happens, especially when he starts to feel kind of in a groove or that offense starts to feed around him. It's an issue.
He's really good. Like when our defense was on the field and their offense he looked like the best player on the entire field all night, which is saying something because, Leonard Taylor, James Williams, Tyreek Stevenson, like we do have some ballers, even though we've struggled overall as a unit. And that's one thing that I wanted to get your take on is explain to us how something like that happens, right? You have James Williams, you have Cam Kinchens, you have Avonte Williams making plays, you have Tyreek Stevenson, you have Leonard Taylor making plays. The defensive line's getting pressure. Okay, how does that not translate to good defense? Because we are seeing guys pop and absolutely have Sports Center type plays. How does that not translate to a good defensive unit?
It's difficult, dude, because defense is one of those things to where everybody has to play their role pretty much. The defensive line is one of those few spots there where you can actually dominate from that standpoint, and it might help out some of your weak linebackers. But the issue is that if our defensive line isn't dominating, our linebackers are just basically cooked before the even play happens, and then we've still got guys taking really bad angles in the secondary when we do get big runs going on. I'm not sure what the issue with angles is. It was something with Bubba Bolden before he got hurt. James Williams took a couple bad angles today. I hate to say it, but I want to do nothing but praise the guy. But hey,
he needs to wrap up, man. And yeah, like I get it. As a fan base, I think we all are treating James Williams like he's a treasure, which I mean he is in a sense, right? He's an incredible 5-star athlete that's a physical freak. None of us want to critique him because we're just happy that he's here, right? And we all know that he's going to be probably a first-round pick in the NFL. He's a freak, but you're right. He took some bad angles today. He hasn't been wrapping up when he's tackling. We can critique him while still saying he's probably the best thing that's happened to our recruiting in a decade or more, right? He's probably the most important recruit to come here since Duke Johnson, honestly.
Yeah. Today's defensive performance, regardless of some of the positives that I might be trying to flip here on the offensive side, today's performance on defense, win or loss, just made it clear to me that Manny Diaz still isn't the guy for us, dude. I mean, honestly, at the end of the day, he's just not the right head coach to take us to the next level.
Yeah.
Who knows what can happen in some of these next games because we're playing teams that actually have more talent. We better show up because if we get embarrassed on any of this stuff, dude, with how fragile our recruiting class is right now, not a good look, man. That was just something I wanted to point out there.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. I know we're trying to focus on some of the good stuff that happened today. But overall, I think today was just more evidence that we don't have the right situation with coaching. There's how do you blow a 14-point lead where you are just absolutely hammering their defense, right? Like we looked unstoppable on the first two possessions. Yeah. And then the game slipped away, man. Like, how does that even happen? How is it that there's a minute left in the game and we're holding on for dear life? We're
against a bad team.
Yeah, and it's like without a holding call at the end of the game, what would have happened? or without that, they missed a pass interference call. I think that was Georgia Tech's second to last drive. So there was like 3 minutes left. But Cam Kinchins should have been flagged for PI on the right side of the field when they would have got a first down and didn't. And it's really kind of embarrassing that we are just really having to pull ourselves up by our bootstraps to beat below average teams. So
we fumbled 3 straight plays. You wasn't watching the game, just critique Manny. We just spent this entire whole time talking about the team and not Manny. I'm not sure what you're getting at there, bro. Sorry.
Yeah. And like, I don't know. I think you just have to talk about the whole thing, right?
That's what we're trying to do, yeah.
Yeah, the defense has not been good all year, right?
Not at all.
Who's our defensive coordinator?
Manny Diaz.
I mean, who's been recruiting our defensive players for 6 years, man?
Manny Diaz.
I mean, who's been the head coach over the embarrassing losses at FIU, Louisiana Tech, North Carolina last year, Oklahoma State last year, Alabama this year? Just games where it's like we just didn't even show up to play, right? Like, obviously, we're going to lose games. I recognize that.
Yeah.
But I don't think the University of Miami should ever get blown out repeatedly, right?
Yeah.
Like, I get it. Stuff happens. If we're having a really great year and we get blown out one game, that's fine. Mental lapse, okay? But when it is a pattern, when there's an established pattern across 3 years of showing up not to play, looking undisciplined, looking disinterested, losing games after a bye, that's a great – I mean, it's hard for me to have confidence, man.
Regardless of what happens on offense, I don't really think that has a whole lot to do with Manny at all as the head coach. I think that we've talked about this before, Jordan. These weren't the moves that he wanted. He was forced into making these moves through various different reasons. He was forced into it. One of them being possibly losing his damn job, a couple being injuries, but a lot of it was a lot of pressure being forced to just, hey, we got to try something different because if we keep losing the same way, we are going to get fired. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm worried for the fact that we just got done beating 2 top 25 teams. Yep. We had momentum. We had what was looking like things that were turning around. And then we laid an egg against a very mediocre to bad team today and had to be in a dogfight to beat them at home. That's my concern. And it just shows me there's no consistency with Manny. We never show up. We never show up hardly and play great football against bad teams. Just every once in a while we do that. I don't get that.
Well, if you could talk for just a second, I want to actually pull up our schedule so that I can see the margin of victory that we've had. Because that's actually a point that – okay, so we beat App State by 2 points, lost to Virginia by 2, lost to UNC by 3, beat NC State by 1, beat Pitt by 4, beat Georgia Tech by 3 today. That should be a little concerning, right? Is that even when we win, we're just barely getting by. I don't think good football teams do that.
No, not at all. Not with teams like the talent that we have against the teams that we're playing against. The ACC is the worst I've ever seen the ACC since we've dealt with this. Honestly, it's the worst. Yeah. We had the golden opportunity to take advantage and actually, without Clemson being in the way, basically, and get that ACC title that we've been so desperately dreaming about. I mean, the ACC has been a nightmare for Miami this entire time. It's been a bad experiment, and it's been a nightmare. And we had our shot this year, and it's frustrating to know that we're still not quite where I thought we were. I was hoping for a little more, Jordan, and I guess I feel a little just kind of today. I'm a little frustrated.
Yeah, well, I mean, didn't we have? Correct me if I'm wrong here. Didn't we have 11 starters back on offense?
Yes.
And 9 starters back on defense.
Yep. Tons of experience.
And we went 8-3 last year. So, yeah, like, I don't know. I mean, that should say it all, right? You get back 20 starters from an 8-3 season and you start 2-4. That should say it all, man. Like, we had experience, okay? We had guys that have won games, right? And to be consistent, like I've critiqued that 8-3 record a little bit, right? I've talked about how we weren't beating good teams. We were taking care of business against bad teams, but now we're not doing that again, right? We're not taking care of business against bad teams. And that should be extremely worrying to people.
Yeah, I mean, it's that word, and I hate saying it over and over. It's consistency. Manny Diaz has no consistency in his coaching process or coaching philosophies that can be an upside to us week by week. I mean, I thought when I was making my prediction earlier this week before this game went on, I thought that if we won by 10 or more, that wasn't a bad thing for us. I didn't think we were going to win by a lot just because it just felt like one of those odd games. You know, it just felt like I had that bad feeling.
Well, that's every week now, dude. That's just every week now.
But don't you want to be able to, like, as fans, you know, we just had 2 top 25 wins. We just beat Pitt, a team that we really didn't think we were going to beat. We beat them, but yet we have no hope still. I mean, there are some fans, don't get me wrong. There's the Manny fans out there, and by all means, you guys can handle it however you want to. It's just predominantly from the fan base, I see very, very little hope, even after winning these 3 games.
Well, what's there to be confident about, man? I mean, I don't want to get too negative, but let's just be straight honest, okay? Like, yes, we recruited some ballers this year, okay? But look at the Al Golden era, man. We had ballers there too. I mean, we had a defensive backfield full of guys that are still playing in the NFL, right? Corn Elder, Sheldrick Redwine, Jaquan Johnson, Adrian Colbert, okay? Like, all those guys made it to the league, okay? And yet, how did those defenses turn out? You know, Anthony Chickalow, Denzel Perryman, you know, I could keep going, right? So, like, I'm excited about our young guys too, but just because we have guys that pop does not mean anything's going to come of it. I mean, you really have to have good infrastructure. Sorry to cut you off.
Yeah. Oh, no. That's what I was just going to say. Yeah.
Yeah, you need infrastructure and then talent on top of the infrastructure. And my worry is that I have severe concerns about our infrastructure.
I haven't seen anything even after beating a team like Pitt that made me change my mind. While I can see the positives and I can see the difference between what the early season for Miami looked like compared to now, and yes, we have made positives, but the biggest issue, and you've touched on it already here, our head coach is our defensive coordinator, and that's the absolute worst side of our team right now. I mean, if the offense is carrying this team right now, far too often anyways, far too often.
Yeah, it's been bad every year of Diaz as the head coach. And he's a defense guy, right? Like, I know he brought in Blake Baker, but Baker came in and ran Manny's defense, right? He is a Manny prodigy, okay? Patke's a Manny prodigy. Banda's a Manny prodigy, okay? So Manny had his guys here to run his defense, okay? And now Manny is running his own defense. And it's just been struggles, man. It really has been struggles. So, I mean, I wish I had the right answer of where to go here, but, you know, and it's not like the offense has looked way better since we had De'Aaron King in, Tyler Van Dyke. But do we remember how bad it looked for the first 5 games of the season? The offense was terrible with De'Aaron King to start the year. The play calling was terrible. The execution was terrible.
Yeah, the play calling,
Yeah, and I'm not putting that all on King either. We talked about his injuries, right? Hurt shoulder, hurt PCL, you know, recovering, probably came back too soon from his ACL injury.
Yes.
So I'm not blaming him. But what I'm saying is, like, we're 4 weeks removed from having a terrible offense too.